in Everyday Wisdom, this little book of quotes, my favorite quote in there is this whole idea that if you really want to improve the quality of your relationships, whatever you pay to get in here tonight, just this one little sentence will really dramatically alter your relationships. And I'm not just talking about the person that you live with. I'm talking about people that you meet on the street, people that you work with, people that wait on you in restaurants, whomever they are. When you have the choice, and you always do, to be right or to be kind, just pick kind. It's a whole new paradigm. I no longer have to be right. Whew. Now there is a shift in awareness that will lead you to higher consciousness. Someone says, you really are an asshole. And you say, I appreciate you pointing that out. You know, I really do behave like a jerk a lot. And having someone to point it out to me really probably will help me to transcend that. It's very nice of you. The subtitle of my new book is called Making the Decision to Be Free. Making the decision to be free. Now, freedom, the best definition I ever heard of freedom was offered by Florinda Donner in a wonderful book called Being in Dreaming. And Florinda Donner defined it this way. She said, freedom is the absolute lack of concern about yourself. Now that's freedom. When I was walking with Marianne Williamson in Melbourne, Australia, just a few months ago, we toured Australia, speaking down there. And we went for a walk one day. My oldest daughter, was babysitting her little girl, Emma. And we went for a walk for about 2-3 hours, just talking about the tour and what we were going to do on the programs and all of that. And she said to me, out of nowhere, she said, come on, Wayne. She said, tell me, do you have any secret desires? Just like... Now, there was a time when someone asked me that question in a park, you know, a woman, I would have come up with sort of a crass remark. But I said, yes, I do have secret desires. She said, what is it? I said, I would like to disappear and still be here. And I remember reading in some of Castaneda's later works saying that freedom is really a disappearing act. It's like you have to learn how to disappear your ego. And the absolute lack of concern about yourself and how things affect you and how self-absorbed you are and how important you are and their need to be right all the time and all of that. This is all stuff that is part of a paradigm that we have been taught because we believe in this, ego, which stands for edging God out. Our ego is the part of us that is our false self. And I say that without qualification. It is the part of us that would have us believe that we are separate from, that we are more important than, that we are special. And all of the stuff that you see going on out there, judging it is not important. In fact, when you judge another person or judge something else, you don't define it. You define yourself as someone who needs to judge. You can't define me by calling me a jerk or a fool. You only define yourself.
It's like if you could spend an hour a day in meditation. The great French philosopher and scientist Pascal said that all of man's troubles stem from his inability to sit quietly in a room alone. You sit quietly in a room alone and go within and discover that higher consciousness, whatever you want to call it, whether you call it God or soul or spirit or Louise, it doesn't make any difference what you label it. If you go within and discover that and spend time each day inside of yourself, just peacefully being there and asking the questions, how may I serve? And what is my purpose? And what can I do to make this life a better one? And how can I serve people rather than be victimized by them or victimizing anybody else? You find that developing that kind of a quiet, peaceful, serene mind is something that will allow you to process the whole world in a more peaceful way. And when you get to that point where you are aligning yourself spiritually, or you are aligning yourself with the invisible part of your humanity, the part that defies form, that doesn't begin and doesn't end, when you align yourself there, and that becomes your first priority, you start noticing that you don't get victimized as much. That as I am more peaceful and I send out more harmony and more love and more forgiveness and more kindness and more of all the things I've been talking about on this tape, if you send that out more, that's what you get back. If you send out hostility and pain and suffering and anger and wanting to make other people wrong and wanting to prove yourself all the time, if you send out that kind of energy from yourself, that's exactly what you're going to get back. Send out love, you'll get back love. All of us are on our own paths, doing exactly what we know to do at the moment, given the conditions of our lives. This means that we get past the idea of blame and fault-finding, and begin to know that just because we are on one path and someone else is on a different one doesn't make anybody wrong. The measure of your life will not be in what you accumulate, but in what you give away. The secret of abundance is to stop focusing on what you do not have and shift your consciousness to an appreciation for all that you are and all that you do have. Practice being in the world, but not of the world. Learn to ignore how things outside of you are going, and know that higher awareness is truly a disappearing act. These are the words that spiritual masters have given us from the very beginning. Be in the world, but do not be of the world. Fill out the forms. Play the game. Do what it is that you have to do so that you can get along in our society. But be in a transcendent space in your life. Know that you are a spiritual being, formless, boundaryless, who doesn't have to play the game inside. And that means to be in the world, of course, but to be of the world is something you don't have to choose. Send out love and harmony. Put your mind and body in a peaceful place, and then allow the universe to work in the perfect way that it knows how. I don't have to be directed by anything outside of myself. God is within me, and the infinite and divine power that gives me sustenance as a human being is always there. You can never get enough of what you don't want. And anybody who's ever been an addict of any kind, or been struggling in any relationship, or has been looking for something outside of themselves knows the thing that you despise the most, that substance, that booze, that needful relationship, you can never get enough of what you don't want. You can't go around being what everybody expects you to be, living your life through other people's rules, and be happy and have inner peace. The only antidote to anger is to eliminate the internal sentences. If only you were more like me, and if only the world were not the way it is. Everything in your life is a miracle to be cherished. A grain of sand, a bee on a flower, a sailboat, a cup of coffee, a wet diaper, a caterpillar, all miracles. When you learn to view life and everything in it as a miracle, you soon see that complaining is a waste of the miracle that you are. Just because a person is young or small does not make him or her incomplete. The truth is that we are all complete at all moments of our lives. When you become immobilized by what anybody thinks of you, what you are saying is that your opinion of me is more important than my own opinion of myself. When my daughter Tracy came home in the second grade and said, "Billy doesn't like me, Billy doesn't like me," I responded, "Do you like you?" And she said, "Yes." Then I replied, "Well, that's all you've got." You see, even at 7 years old, a person shouldn't get the idea that anyone else's reaction to you should in any way get you down. Did you ever notice how difficult it is to argue with someone who is not obsessed with being right? Your suffering comes from needing things to be different. When you stop that, your suffering stops. You can want things, but it is the needing that must go. Life is an attitude. It's what you choose to believe, always. You can come to a beautiful temple every Sunday and you can practice all kinds of Bible things and you can label yourself with the most fantastic tags that you can come up with, but you won't find your heart in a temple if you don't have a temple in your heart.
And when we're in spirit, we move away from a sense of feeling sorry for ourselves and instead look for what the lesson is. Steve and Anita had a daughter named Rachel. Rachel was brutally murdered and her body was left. And they wrote to Ram Dass, who was their teacher, and they said, how can we, after losing our daughter, how can we find spirit? How can we be inspired? How can we find God in events such as this? And there are many of you watching who have encountered these kinds of acts and have also encountered accidents and things that just don't seem to make sense. People just taken away from us at what are seemingly the wrong times. And this is what Ram Dass wrote to Steve and Anita. It's one of the most beautiful letters I've ever read. He said, Dear Steve and Anita, Rachel finished her work on earth and left the stage in a manner that leaves those of us left behind with a cry of agony in our hearts as the fragile thread of our faith is dealt with so violently. Is anyone strong enough to stay conscious through such teachings as you are receiving? Probably very few. And even they would only have a whisper of equanimity and peace amidst the screaming trumpets of their rage, grief, horror, and desolation. I can't assuage your pain with any words, nor should I. For your pain is Rachel's legacy to you. Not that she or I would inflict such pain by choice, but there it is, and it must burn its purifying way to completion. For something in you dies when you bear the unbearable, and it is only in that dark night of the soul that you are prepared to see as God sees, and to love as God loves. Now is the time to let your grief find expression, no false strength. Now is the time to sit quietly and speak to Rachel and thank her for being with you these few years and encourage her to go on with whatever her work is, knowing that you will grow in compassion and wisdom from this experience. In my heart, I know that you and she will meet again and again and recognize the many ways in which you have known each other. And when you meet, you will know in a flash what now it is not given to you to know, why this had to be the way it was. Our rational minds can never understand what has happened, but our hearts, if we keep them open to God, will find their own intuitive way. Rachel came through you to do her work on earth, which includes her manner of death. Now, her soul is free, and the love that you can share with her is invulnerable to the winds of changing time and space. In that deep love, include me. In love, Ram Dass. I just don't think writing gets any better than that. And for those of you who can't figure it out, perhaps just listening to those words and being able to find inspiration, even in the most horrifying of times, when you're in spirit, you have a different kind of a knowing, one that doesn't require you to continue to suffer. To remember that our desires don't arrive on our schedule. They arrive when they're supposed to. I'd like to close out this program on inspiration with all of these inspiring participants, with all of the wonderful help of all of you who've inspired me so much, with a quote from one of my great teachers, Ralph Waldo Emerson. We are very near to greatness. One step and we can be safe. Can't you take the one leap, just one leap? And from A Course in Miracles, I leave you with these beautiful words. There is a way of living in the world that is not here, although it seems to be, You do not change appearance, though you smile more frequently. Your forehead is serene. Your eyes are quiet. You walk this path as others walk. Nor do you seem to be distinct from them, although you are indeed. Thus can you serve them while you serve yourself. A new way of living, to be in spirit. Thank you for watching. God bless you.